All right, so here we go. I want to talk to you about a missed opportunity for a past client. So I'm going to show you exactly what they did like 15 months ago that cost them, well, let's be real, it didn't cost them money, but if they were to try and buy the same house today that they backed out of 15 months ago because of, I believe it was a $10,000 repair, it might have been a roof or something else, but it wasn't a whole lot of money. It was an $870 sale, and after the inspections, they had backed out after the sellers would not agree to any credits or repairs or things like that. So so they actually would have paid, if they were to buy the exact same house today, they would have paid over the life of a loan over $500,000 for the exact same house, over $10,000. And yeah, it sounds like not a big deal because it's over 30 years, but in a second I'll show you how it looks monthly, and yeah, it's kind of a big deal. So let's go with the slides. We're doing a slideshow today. All right, so my client, end of 2020, they've been looking at houses for a while, and they found a house that actually got accepted after a few letdowns. And this is what we're looking at, the 870, 20% down, based on the property taxes. That was $900 a month, and the mortgage back then was under 3%. So the mortgage alone was $2,800, taxes were $900, and probably a little bit for insurance. But yeah, this is California, Los Angeles County area, I believe, or Oxnard. But it's a high-priced area. But after the inspection, they backed out. They couldn't come to terms. It was $10,000, not too far off for a California transaction. So that's what they had end of 2020. This is during the pandemic. So today, the same client's putting in offers in other houses today, but I went back and said, let's find that house. Let me see what actually happened to it and where it's at now. So I pulled up the exact house. Now that house that they backed out of for $870 sold a month later for $894. So right away, there's more interest within a couple of weeks. And the house today, I did some comps, $1.1 million in the last 15 months. They could have bought it, just held on to it for a year and sold it, and then would have had money in the bank to put down a bigger down payment on another property. Even after accounting for capital gains, they still would have had, what is that, over $200 something thousand before taxes. So let's say the tax on half of that, $100,000, and just carry the house for a year. Of course, you couldn't really predict exactly where it would go, but I'll show you in a second. Home values over time do go up. Real estate is, of course, there are nooks and crannies and dips and whatever you call it, but over time, it's a pretty solid investment for buy and hold. It's a good investment for short-term flips. A lot of people are making money doing that as well. But the exact same house today, $1.1 million. If they wanted to buy it with a 20% down without mortgage insurance, well, the down payment's a little bit more. What is that, like almost $46,000? Their taxes are about $200 more a month, and their mortgage is significantly more a month. What is that, $42.64, $28? Yeah, that's a lot for the exact same house. Keep that in mind, exact same house. So here's some numbers for you. $10,000 in repairs, which they backed out of, turned into, if they were to buy it today, of course, they're not buying the exact same house today, but just to compare apples to apples, the house is an apple, $46,000 for additional down payment just to avoid mortgage insurance, which, side note, not really a bad idea to pay mortgage insurance depending on the numbers, but their monthly payment, not including taxes, insurance, I didn't guess what that would have been, but $1,600+ a month just for the mortgage and for the property taxes. Exact same house, $46,000 more in the pocket, $1,600 more a month. So yeah, what does that look like? Well, over 30 years, just that monthly difference is $500,000. Tack on their $46,000 down payment, and now they're at $550,000. Again, over 30 years, which is ridiculous to really try and compare something like that because it's such a long time period, and nobody has a house longer than like 12 years average, 12, 13 years. But yeah, definitely, something to look at and consider. What else do I have here for you? So one thing that people should know when they're buying a house is, unless you're buying a brand new house, and even then you buy a brand new house, it may still need repairs. The builders aren't perfect. When you buy a resale, you're not buying a brand new house. You're buying a used house. So you should expect repairs. You should expect that there'll be repairs after you buy it, a month later, a year later, every 5 years, every 3 years. There's always something to do on a house that you own. So like when you buy something else used, like for example, a used car, you're not expecting the seller to repaint the car or replace the engine for you. It's going to have, wear and tear. It's going to have mileage on it. Same with a house. So if you're expecting someone to sell you a house and for them to fix everything, paint everything, it's not going to happen. Not in this market, at least. I mean, it's got to be a very strong buyer's market where sellers are just giving away a house for them to actually make concessions. And even in those cases, they'll be losing even more money. So I don't even know what to tell you, but it would take a whole different market for the buyer to get significant amount of repairs or to get a used house up to the same standards as a brand new house. So when you're buying a house right now, compared to the numbers that we just saw with the appreciation that happened in such a short period of time, maybe it's okay to bid over asking or even over the appraisal. A lot of people are putting escalation clauses in their contracts where they're going to keep adding an amount to the highest offer. Like I'll go $5,000 over whatever your next highest offer is, something like that. Or they're doing appraisal gaps, which you've definitely heard of by now, where whatever I'm offering this price, but if the appraisal comes in low, I will pay X amount of dollars over the appraised value. So I bid $500,000. I say if the appraisal comes in low, I will pay up to $30,000 above appraisal. That means if it appraises $470,000, I'm still in it for $500,000. Financing is different, but that's what I would agree to in the contract. And some people balk at that right now. Like, I'm not paying over this price. I'm overpaying. That's not worth it. Well, what is a house worth? What's it worth today? What's it worth tomorrow? What's it worth to someone else? So when you're in that situation, you're shopping for a house. If you're offering market value, list price, or whatever you think market value is, you may be spinning your wheels for a while. And if your agent keeps letting you put in offers at list price, thinking you'll get one day, they're not the right agent for you. You're just going to be spinning your wheels. You're not going to get a house. And if you want to get something at list price, you're going to have to wait for a house that's listed and sitting there for a while for the seller to actually take it seriously. Right now, a lot of listings are listed at market or even below market just to get a lot of interest to kind of drive up the price. And it sounds terrible that they're trying to get as much money out of the buyers as possible. But if you were a seller, if you're selling a house, you would want to get as much money from the sale as possible. You're not giving away your house. So when you're looking at putting offers in and you're not sure if you should overbid or how much more for the appraisal should be, you should definitely consider what's currently going on with appreciation. Like, where's my house going to be tomorrow? Like, if you have, let's say, 15% appreciation in your market, maybe 10% a month, something like that, or whatever it is, some crazy appreciation. Let's say you buy a house today, you overbid, over appraisal, over asking price. Before your first payment's due, because of appreciation, your value probably caught up a little bit to what you actually offered. And a lot of times, within the first few months or sooner, like these people, to get that $10,000 of the repairs, that would have taken, it went up, $200 something thousand dollars over just 15 months. So it probably increased that value in just a month alone. The next offer was in the high 894. So right there, the next buyer said, you know what? I think it's $24,000 worth it for me to get it over the last offer. So something to think about, right? So, and I get it. A lot of people are thinking there's going to be a crash, right? I have a different video I'm putting together about how ridiculous that's going to be, but there may or may not be a crash. And if there is a crash, which means values drop drastically, which the last time that really happened was the financial collapse in 2007, and that was a whole different circumstances. But But when that happened, yeah, values did drop, but you know what? They came back, So, you're not going to time the market perfectly for the crash, and you may not be ready for the crash. And if you are waiting for values to drop considerably to buy a house, well, I got some bad news for you. Is there's a lot of investors sitting on a lot of cash that if that opportunity arises, they're buying those houses all cash. So if you're still going to be a finance buyer, you're still going to have a lot of competition, or even more so when the values come down. And the reason why, because the investors know that if the values do come down, whether it's, a huge drop like it was in 07, which I don't think we'll see again like that for a while, or even if it's a modest reduction in price, the investors know that's short term and they're going to get it back, and they're just getting it on sale. That's really what they're doing. So I don't expect anybody to believe what anyone says about the market, but let's take a look at some data and just see. So this is from Fred. So you can go to the website there. It's government data they have all kinds of things: interest rates, history, prices in different areas, different markets. And I pulled up just California and North Carolina, the two states I happen to be licensed in. So you can see North Carolina, California, this goes back to that's 1985, 80. This is I guess 70s maybe. So 1970 to now, it's not going to be a perfectly straight line, but it's pretty stable. These gray lines, by the way, are periods of recession, which we have one possibly now or coming up. And you can see this recession in the 80s, values didn't really waver. A little drop here in the mid 80s, right here, whatever year that was. Not really much change in the value. And you can see here, this is like 2000, what year is that? I can't even tell. It's the early 2000s, like 2005, 2008, I think. I can't see. But, values did drop a little bit before the recession because in California, things were a little bit crazy and there were so many people selling houses. They were building a lot of houses, and things just got overpriced and values dropped, and then the recession, and things got terrible for a couple of years. But we've recovered. Look at this. We're better than we were then. If you bought a house here at the height of the market right before the crash and you felt terrible, maybe you did a short sale around here, if you would have held on to that for a little bit, you would have been doing pretty good if you would have held out. And this is California. It's a pretty unique state in the union, but let's look at North Carolina, where I am now, and kind of similar. You didn't see as much of all the there and this thing here, because North Carolina is more of a, I guess it's been more stable, historically, up until here, mid 2000s. There's a recession, things dropped a little bit, but it's been picking back up. And right now, if you're in the area or you're reading about it, Raleigh's been voted like the #1 city in the country. So many, corporations are moving here. People are leaving California, New York, all over the place, coming to Raleigh. And there's a migration happening all over the country, don't get me wrong, but it's just getting crazy here. They just can't build houses fast enough. They're expanding all the freeways. So, here we are. Values are now the highest they've ever been. And will it drop? Again, I don't think so. There's always going to be people wanting to buy houses. Millennials are a huge demographic, and they're going to be buying their first homes when they hit the average age of 33 to buy a home, and they'll need more homes. And when there's limited properties, values go up, supply and demand. So point of this, I don't really know what I was trying to get at, but don't miss opportunities, and be realistic. Just know that whatever the list price is or the appraisal price is, that's not set in stone. It's not like a commodity that's a fixed price. It's supply and demand. It's limited land to build on. So the more people inhabit this planet, the more homes are going to need, and you're going to have to spread out further from the cities, but homes in most areas, as populations increase, the values will go up. The economy gets larger, there's more money, things like that. So just be realistic. Don't be shy from a property because maybe you're paying over, as long as you can afford it. The way I look at it is if the home meets your needs physically, location wise, And if it meets your budget, your monthly, you're out of pocket at closing, right? Unless you're flipping the house, if you're an investor and you're like, I got to make as much money in the next 2 months, I got to buy this house, fix it up, sell it and profit, right? Unless you're that kind of investor, this is not that kind of investment for you if this is the home you're living in long term, because you will build up equity just by paying your mortgage with your amortization. The value will go up, and you're not going to be affected if the values do drop a little bit, unless that's when you're selling the house. Because unless you're selling it, you didn't lose value because you're not realizing the loss. And unless you're when values go up and you have a lot of equity in the house, you don't have that equity. You're not going to realize that unless you sell the house as well. So you don't see the losses or the gains unless you actually do something with the house, either sell it or right now with so much appreciation and so much equity in homes, it's not a bad idea to because rates are still relatively low. 3s are still good. 4s historically are amazing. Not a bad idea to cash out equity and save it for a rainy day. Invest it if you can, buy other real estate. I don't know. I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't tell you what to do, but you can do something with the equity other than letting it sit there and do nothing. But definitely don't shy away from opportunities. If this is the time when you feel like you want to buy a house and the need's there, you can afford it, you can get your mortgage pre-approved by a local lender, and you find the right house and you close on the house, well, maybe that is what you should be doing. And not worry about what you see in the news, not worry about the scare tactics and the doom and gloom. Real estate is going to be strong for a long time. We will see dips, we will see massive increases like we are now, but over time we will see steady increases in the value of properties. So take that into consideration when you're planning your next steps. Thank you.